All right, this is APUSH Chapter 11, Part 5. Hopefully, a concluding chapter here. Want to start off where we ended with abolitionism and their three main goals that you really need to know. They wanted to appeal to religious believers. If they could get people feeling like it was their religious duty to protect slavery, then they really felt like that could gain them some momentum. They also wanted to aid fugitive slaves. There were slaves that were making it up to the north. They were running away and risking their lives, really, to escape to freedom. So they wanted to help these people when they got to the north, provide for jobs and get them, into society and stuff. Lastly, of course, they wanted political activity. They wanted, if you could get laws on the books, that'd be tremendous help. Unfortunately, in this time period, the issue is so incredibly divisive that in Congress they actually put a gag rule, in fact, where they won't discuss anything that has to do with slavery, because Southerners and Northerners, they just can't get along at this point, and it is very bad issue, very polarizing as far as the nation goes. Um, you had some women. Women were hugely important to backing the abolition movement. They themselves felt a sense of slavery to their husbands, so they could kind of identify with the slavery of African Americans. Two important ones were Sarah and Angela Grimke. They were pushing the abolition ticket from Pennsylvania. They had a Quaker background, so they believed in equality. And of course, there was immense backlash from pro-slavery, meaning they supported slavery. They weren't going to just sit back and let abolitionists say whatever they wanted to say and try to get rid of abolition. So, they're going to fight back against it. Again, this continues to really divide our nation and lead us up towards that pivotal event, of course, which is the Civil War. Um, Again, so outlandishly polarizing that they're not even going to be able to talk about it in Congress. Meanwhile, William Lloyd Garrison's platform is actually going to broaden to universal suffrage and equality for African Americans, meaning that they would have all the same. He wants all the same rights for African Americans as their white counterparts. Um, Meanwhile, as the abolition movement is going on, women are going to wake up to the fact that while we've had some movement towards women's rights, that as the abolition movement gains momentum, the women's movement is going to gain momentum as well. Now, women's activism brought up several important gender issues for them. One was sexual behavior. What men were allowed to do to their wives and to other women. Second, marriage. A woman's role in the marriage house and how a husband could treat a woman in marriage versus what she could do for herself. Lastly, family authority. In these days, the man's rules the law. He's the disciplinarian. He is whatever he says go. Basically, he's the king and it's his castle. So women are wanting to have a little more private voice as well. Not only are they seeking public voice and opportunity, but private voice as well. That early idea of Republican motherhood, where women stay at home and the most important thing they can do is educate their children and teach them morals and ethics, is starting to be questioned here. Very important woman, Dorothea Dix. Dorothea Dix is going to really start reforming like asylums. She wants to get crazy people out of prisons and have them in their own institute. Secondly, she wants to improve hospitals. She does a very good job of making them hire better nurses and have better facilities. And lastly, she wants to reform prisons. American prisons are some of the worst in the world. She wants to make them where it's not just punitive, punishing damage, but reforming damage, or reforming the prisoners. You had Horace Mann, who comes in and lengthens the years that a child goes to elementary school, lengthens the year, makes education better. Most teachers are becoming women at this point, still are today. Lastly, Seneca Falls was a hugely important women's convention in Seneca Falls, New York, 1848. And they were trying to strengthen legal rights of women rather than challenging traditional roles. So unlike some of the other women who are trying to get different positions in the home, they are just saying we want legal rights to protect us, so you can protect property rights and stuff like that. You had Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Lucretia Mott, two of the most important women's rights movement. You've got to remember their names. They were the ones that organized Seneca Falls. They repudiated the belief in gender inferiority and separate spheres. They thought that women should be just like the men. All right. Got to win the power of the votes. A lot of reform in this time period. Make sure you're taking notes.